Hello, Matilda.
Ah, it's so good to see you with your Christmas tree in the background.
Yeah, I wish you were here though, because we wanted to do this in person like last time. But because numbers are not going well and we're heading for a lockdown, we thought.
Better to be safe than sorry. Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of The Greatest Knits with Julia and Matilda. We're two friends who knit together in Amsterdam. And on today's agenda, we're going to be discussing the projects that we're making at the moment. A fantasy project, if only we weren't making what we were currently making. We're talking about someone who's inspiring us, and we'll discuss a favorite three later in the show. So stay with us. But Julia, would you like to start by telling us what you've been knitting?
What I've been knitting. First of all, I finished the shawl that I showed last time.
Do you have it to show me?
I do.
Ooh.
It is a we talked so much about intarsia. I have the feeling that I finally did and write an intarsia pattern.
Oh man, it looks so good.
Shawl.
Yeah.
It's a mixture of cable and intarsia. So it sounds very, I think it sounds very intimidating, but it isn't. It's really fun. And while I was knitting it, I was, you kind of like trying to find a name for the pattern.
Yeah.
I've decided to call it Karo, which is square.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So I'm going to admit that I have not really done an intarsia project. Would this be a good beginner's intarsia?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I already know the colors I want to make it in.
Because to be honest, it's my first intarsia project.
Oh, you've done intarsia before. I've seen it.
Yeah, but I abandoned the project, so I can't really. It doesn't count.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, no, this is much easier. It's not really intarsia in terms of making fields grow and go smaller with the stitches. It's slipping the stitches like a cable, and you just happen to do that with a different color. I'm making videos for this as well, so people can see how easy it is. But anyway, this is going to be test knitted very soon. Maybe around Christmas or just beginning of next year. And if you're interested, you can drop that in the comments below. I thought that's maybe an easy way to do that. Anyway, that's number. Oh yeah, I made these headbands that you.
Yeah, they're so gorgeous.
If you would have been here, I would have given you one to wear.
I love it.
It's really nice.
Very classy.
It's very classy. It's very female.
Yeah, super femme. Love it.
Yeah. So that I did. Oh yeah. And then I'm working on another shawl because I'm into shawls now. And it's a stripe.
Ooh, like a little garter ridge.
Yeah, garter ridge. Going into a bubble stitch.
Yeah.
And going into a garter ridge with a little lace detail.
Gorgeous.
Huh?
Love it.
Fun.
Super fun.
Yeah. That's it.
That's plenty.
How about you?
Okay, so I showed last time my mittens, and they are now up to thumb stage. There's the other one that has no thumb yet. And I discovered that I have created a, what do we call it? No, not two left-handed, thank goodness. But I've messed up the color work on one of them. So this is the correct one and this is the wrong one. Not everyone I show it to sees the problem, but it became pretty obvious to me once I figured it out.
It's my son would be much better in this spot the difference kind of exercise.
Yeah. So on this one, the wrong one, it's got stripe, 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 black, black, black. And it's supposed to go stripe, black, stripe, black, stripe, stripe, black. So, but I don't think my husband's going to notice.
No.
And it's going to help him tell the left from the right.
That's right. Yeah.
So once the thumbs are done, they are ready to give, and that should just be in time for season, which is good. And then I couldn't stop myself from casting on my Hella sweater, which is going really well after several false starts where I kept dropping one of my raglan stitch markers and then doing like 3 increase rounds and then going, I did that. Probably shouldn't swear on the podcast.
but
going,
how it feels.
Yeah.
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 That's lovely. Yeah, I know that I did that too, actually. I also made some weird increases where increases were not asked for, and it's kind of like a third arm.
Yeah. Just, trying to accommodate my very luscious collarbone here.
Yeah, or something like this. Yeah.
But I'm really loving it. I'm using a really beautiful Swedish wool yarn from, what's it called? It's called Ullcentrum Ullgarn from Sweden. It's very
nice
woolly wool. So really enjoying that. And then as my in-between somewhat mindless project, except it's in the naughty corner at the moment, I have a good old dotted rains from Stephen West, and that one is in Burgundy Beam from Lola Bean Yarn Co., the Stephen and Penelope custom color.
Yeah, lucky you that you got some.
I have a line, but some stitches fell off my needle. There's a few increases that dropped. I gotta do some surgery. So
yeah,
that's my project for the weekend. Actually, is figuring out what happened there.
Okay, you need a certain frame of mind or mindset.
Yeah, it can't be after work. I have to be calm, relaxed, time, light.
Yeah,
all that stuff.
Like Nancy Marchand always says, don't start repairing your brioche before you go to bed. It's
definitely.
What would you be knitting in a different life right now?
Okay. I have been thinking I want another sweater because it's that time of year. So I have been skimming through Ravelry on occasion, and I've came across the Ilha sweater by Orlane Sucche from Tetebesh Knitwear. I'm sorry if my French pronunciation is not good. But I love Orlane's designs. I think they're really classic, very chic and feminine, but very, not too girly or over the top. And I think she has a really lovely eye for detail.
Absolutely.
So the Ilha sweater, it's a yoked sweater. It has really lovely stitch detail around the yoke, sort of cables and lacy bits going on. Cables is not usually what I am attracted to, but this time, it's kind of taken my fancy.
Yeah. Okay.
How about you, Julia?
I have I've been looking at the Florence shawl.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, maybe if you're following Luke London, you saw it come across. It's a very beautiful garter stitch shawl with a I don't think it's intarsia really. It has these flowery, it's kind of like a flowery bunting on the edge.
Cute.
And I really like the construction. I like the simplicity, how it's constructed. It's very kind of like, if I say childish, it sounds negative, but it's just built up like somebody who is actually not a usual revelry knitter. Knits up something like not. Sometimes you come across the same thing again and again in a different version, but this one's really different, really stands out. Right. And I think also it's very doable. Ooh. And she's also teaching, and she wrote a book about machine knitting, and yeah, so maybe that's going to be given to me from me. Industry could happen. What is your favorite feed at the moment?
Well, I'm still off Instagram, and in fact more off Instagram than I was the last time we spoke. I think this is just every time we speak I'm going to have been on less and less and less. So I'm still not a favorite feed this time, but I am really diving deep into the writings of Octavia Butler. Have you read any Octavia Butler?
Nope.
She's an American, well, she's sadly no longer with us, but an American writer, focuses mainly on science fiction, a little bit of fantasy sort of stuff. But the series that I am rereading again now is her Parable of the Sower. It's the Earthseed Chronicles. And I'm doing that with book club with a couple of friends here in Amsterdam, and really just loving delving back into her incredibly prescient, kind of scarily so writing, this book was published in the late 80s, and it's set in 2025, and oh gosh, it's not quite right, but there's a lot that's scarily accurate. The work of Octavia Butler, specifically Earthseed Chronicle, is what's been inspiring me lately.
Okay.
How about you, Julia? Who's been making you feel happy?
I'm still on Instagram, for example, and I'm also trying to use the medium in a different way. I switched out the like count of others, so I don't see how many times a post is liked. I think that's really relaxing. It makes me actually, curiously enough, it makes me look less at Instagram. I think they wouldn't like that development, but I do. It's nice. I can only recommend it. And I'm also going back in my post and switch off the like counts of my post, because I think it's a very sick system.
No, it never makes you feel good about yourself. You just feel stressed.
Yeah, exactly. So I've done that anyway, and I'm having different sources on my feed, so less only knitting, and more maybe fashion or styling. Nice. And one really amazing stylist is that I'm following is Kamara, and Ip is short for Ibrahim, and it's a guy he's the editor-in-chief of Dazed and Confused, the magazine that you might know.
Yep.
And he is a stylist for Louis Vuitton, and one of the most amazing cover was for Dazed. He made Rihanna was on the cover, and he made her hair, the afro, like really, really, really long, and a little baseball cap right on top of it. So it's kind of like part cartoon and part real. And it's a lot of fun to have that on your feed, because it's something different. If you only see the knitting, it's knitting. So Ip Kamara is if you want something really exciting on your feed, you should check him out. Yeah. Which brings us to our favorite 3.
Yeah.
This month.
And we've been thinking about resources that we find most helpful in our knitting adventures. Would you like to start, Julia?
Sure. So I love knitting books.
Yeah.
And let's start with number 3. So number 3 is a group of books. It's a kind of books. And that's I'll show you the ugliest version. It doesn't even have the cover anymore. So it's an old magazine on knitting, and it has all these stitches. So it could be any stitch dictionary. And the fun thing about it that I find is that it doesn't matter how old they are. This one I got from a friend. It doesn't matter at all how old they are, because the stitches never go out of fashion. No. And it's a great source of inspiration for me to flip these. And then what I often did now in the recent designs is that I tried them out, and then I added color to them, which changes a lot. And I maybe I changed the stitch. For example, coming to my second favorite one is Tuck Stitches by Nancy Marchand.
Classic.
And yeah, it's already a classic, even though it's only a couple of years old. But this is also a stitch dictionary that she made of basically slip stitches or tucked stitches. It's kind of like a brioche tricot stitch. And when I made this, the sugar sweater, or that I'm also using here, what I did was I picked out one of these stitches and I changed them slightly to just experiment with them and made the fabric change. And it's so much fun. You can just go on forever. You can go on forever to swatch and to construct semi-new stitches. Of course, they've always been, but
love it.
And then number one is
yes,
it's a print out from the digital. I bought the digital copy, and it's Strange Brew by Tin Can Knits, and it's a book. It's an amazing book. Again, I mean, all these authors, the work that they put into a book to create a book that you can then use yourself and use your own imagination and create your own garments. So this one is for yoke sweaters. And the section that I'm using most is the recipe.
Yeah.
The colorwork yoke recipe. And they basically give you the stitches and increases, where to increase and what to do. And then you could fill in your own patterns in there, your own colorwork. And that's, I really...
Such a good resource. I agree. Yeah. Incredible.
My favorite 3. How about yours? I'm curious.
Love it. Well, strangely enough, Strange Brew was my 4th choice. So thank you for including that, because that's one of my favorite knitting books as well. But I think my 3 sort of really date me as when I got into the knitting world and really got interested in knitting, because the first 2, well, all 3 are digital resources. The first 2 were really a big part of my learning to knit back in 2007, 8, 9, when the knitting boom really took off with web stuff. So the first one is knitty.com, and even though I think the Knitty heyday maybe has passed a little bit, I still really love their archive of incredible techniques. It's really how I became someone who went from making garter stitch scarves to being able to do anything much more complicated than that. Was spending a summer just reading through the Knitty archives and trying little things here and there. So it still has a huge place in my knitting knowledge base, I think, and I still refer to certain articles, the Judy's Magical Cast On, for example, and there's a toe-up sock recipe that I use from there all the time. So that's a big one for me. Nice. Second is also a digital resource from around the same time, which is the Tech Knitter blog. And I don't think Tech Knitter has updated her website in quite a while, but it's still a really rich archive of the really nitty-gritty details of how stitches work. And I think I really credit her with making me a much better knitter and really understanding how the fabric and the stitches form the fabric, and being able to read my knitting, I learned through Tech Knitter. And then my third resource is a much more recent one. I said at the beginning of this year that one of my goal projects was going to be the fox paw shawl from Zandy Peters, and I have to admit that has not happened. I'm sorry. I failed. But I think Zandy's YouTube channel is incredible. And that's one of the reasons why I chose their pattern as one of my goals for this year, is because I really credit Zandy with finally getting brioche to stick in my head. Mm-hmm. I've tried it a few times before, but it wasn't until I watched their video that I really understood what I was doing, and it made it work. And I just find their tutorial videos very clear, well filmed, well produced, and they get me the information I need. So
it's also quite amazing if you think about it. I mean, luckily knitting is open to all genders, but the fact that many of these books and sources have been written by women. That's us for the last episode of this year.
Yeah.
We'll be back in January, but we hope that you have a really nice time during the holidays.
Yes.
However you celebrate it or not celebrate it. We'll wish you another good year for 2022. We'll see you again.
We really wanted to thank you also for joining us. It means a lot to us that you watch our episodes, and if you comment and subscribe, that's great too. Yeah, we do it because we love it. So thank you so much for joining us. And Julia, I really hope you have a very happy holiday season. I'm sad that we couldn't get together this time, but I'll see you in the new year, hopefully not too far away.
Yes, hopefully we'll see each other soon.
Yeah.
We'll make it.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye,
everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Recording in progress.